couple of weeks ago, I was lucky enough to try out the future of filmmaking and shoot a fight scene on a LED volume stage. It was a really unique experience. I want to share what I took away from that, some of the results, and how that's changed how I think about this type of filmmaking. I shot at Studio Lab in New Hampshire. Their Studio A is 2,200 square feet. It has a 20-foot ceiling and a XR stage, a LED volume. Overall, it was a very positive experience, and I learned a lot. The Studio Lab people are really wonderful and very collaborative. If you have a chance to shoot there, definitely take advantage of it. I wanted to try and shoot a fight scene in a steel mill. This is a classic trope of action movies. It's in Jackie Chan's Drunken Master 2. It's the finale in Sylvester Stallone's Cobra and dozens of other action movies. In the past, most of them shoot in a real steel foundry or industrial facility. And they have ways of creating fake sparks, fake molten steel. They use practical steam, and generally they just went and did it. Now, while this can look fantastic in the result, it has a lot of downsides, which can be mitigated by shooting in this type of facility. Number one is heat. It was already one of the hottest days of the summer when we were shooting. It was over 40 degrees Celsius, which I think is 108 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's in the shade. My car told me that the exterior temperature was 118. The idea that we then would have gone into somewhere that made it even hotter and been able to get any kind of performance from our cast, from our crew, from me, is frankly just crazy. Just walking from the car to the studio, I was sweating. It would have been impossible to operate the camera in that heat and intensity. It would have been impossible to communicate with the actors, for them to give everything take after take. We would have had all sorts of logistical problems, all sorts of medical problems. It would have been dangerous. It would have taken much longer. It would have cost a lot. Whereas at Studio Lab, we walked into this beautiful, quiet, air-conditioned facility where we had total control over the blocking, the staging, what the camera was seeing. It was easy to communicate. It was easy to choose what we were going to do where. It allows you to create the movie magic of a dangerous, perilous, inhospitable environment without actually being in that environment. One of the things that a LED stage is capable of is mapping the camera, meaning it will create a three-dimensional environment. It will project that environment on the screen. It will work out what the camera is seeing, and as you move the camera, it will change what's behind you. Now, this adds many more steps to what I had planned, and I decided to, for the sake of speed, to not map the camera, but just create a dozen or so effects plates and just have the operator bring them up one at a time. My plan was to shoot a very fast-paced, fast-cut fight scene, and this sort of camera mapping only really has big advantages when you're doing long, smooth transition takes when you're on a gimbal or a slider or a dolly. Because I was operating handheld and I was going to cut quite quickly, I didn't think that you would notice the lack of parallax in the shot. And if you're looking for it, you see it, but I don't think it really detracts at all from the final result. I found a whole bunch of plates. I enhanced them in VFX, adding extra fire elements, adding extra spark elements. And then on the day, we also had a smoke machine that could give me some foreground effects. Then on top of that, in the final shots, I added more foreground effects. It has that little more element of dimension to your shots. Studio Lab provided an operator with the stage. I was able to just call out the plates that I wanted via numbers, like go to 3, go to 4, go to 5. And he, at the press of a button, could just scroll to that next video and play it over the entire screen. Now, I shot single camera, but I think I would have got more out of 2 cameras. We did have 2 cameras, but one was doing the BTS. The advantage of the wraparound stage is that you actually can get 2 camera coverage. You're not shooting off the end of the screen. The actors that I found actually both came from a pro wrestling background rather than a stage combat or martial arts. And I actually found myself pulling back their performances, trying to tell them, oh, let's not do anything too dangerous, rather than actually trying to get them more motivated. They had choreographed the entire scene. They had prepped it. They had rehearsed it. And, it was 30 minutes from when we all arrived on set to when we started shooting. Part of this was because the stage comes already lit. There's a grid in the ceiling. You just choose the colors and the intensity you want. You can have it on a slider. You can dial it in and out, at the touch of a button. I did add some LED tubes to the floor to get uplight, but apart from that, you really can light this thing in no time at all. One big challenge of this type of screen is the edge where the floor meets the LED screen. If you happen to capture this in the shot, it really does give away that you have a smooth concrete floor and then a screen behind. So it would have been great to have some elements like a big, fake steel girder or some trash on the floor to hide that edge. It would have given me a couple more shots that I could have used, especially when shooting down on your characters. Speaking of atmosphere, I would have added a lot more. I would have had multiple smoke machines going, probably even a spark machine, because to have that practically done saves time in post, which is the entire point of shooting on an LED stage. One thing that an LED stage is great for is shortening the approval chain, meaning that if you shoot something on a green screen, the fact that you can do anything to that green screen is sometimes a disadvantage, meaning that the VFX person goes to work, the director approves it, then it gets sent to the producer, then it gets sent to the EP or the studio, and all of them have notes, and that chain of approvals and changes can take weeks, if not months. The advantage of shooting on LED stage is it's much more like shooting on set. This is what you're getting. This is what it is. You can make some changes in post, of course, but it's very much more limited, and it sort of commits you to a result on set that helps you speed through the production process and not get bogged down in all the possibilities of post. This is certainly why The Mandalorian and Disney movies are using it. In summary, I don't think it's ever going to replace real locations. It's a whole new type of filmmaking, one that I think is certainly going to replace green screen eventually, because it's so much better for the actors to perform in. It's so much better for the whole cast and crew to understand the reality of the scene rather than trying to act in a vacuum. From now on, when I shoot on practical locations, I'm definitely going to get what could become plates, so that if I do need to change, do need to add things, do need to go back there for the sequel, you can always pull those up, get on a LED volume stage, and then be right back on the same day in the same light with the same set as you had before, without having to rebuild it from scratch or try and find something that almost matches it. Thank you again for Studio Lab for having me. They were a really wonderful facility, really wonderful people. You can find links to the gear I used in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.